What's up, everyone? In this lesson, we're going to be talking about doing constructions with circles. So the first example we are going to do is we're going to talk about constructing the center of our circle. So in this example, the diagram I have, the center is already marked for us, so we'll actually be able to see if it's correct or not. So the first step, and this is going to be the same first step for all of the constructions that you do, is to draw a diameter. Now, typically a diameter has to go through the center, and in this case we're not going to have our center yet. So for this case, it's fine to just estimate where your diameter is at, and again, you're just drawing a segment that connects 2 points and you're hoping that it's going through the center. And then the other step is, so step 1 is to draw what you think the diameter would be, and then you're going to make another segment from one of the intersections to kind of create an inscribed angle. So if you want to combine step number 1 together, you're going to be creating an inscribed angle, and one of the sides should look like your diameter. Now what you're going to be doing is just doing the perpendicular bisector of each of these segments. So in blue, we'll do of our potential diameter. So for perpendicular bisector, this is a construction that we've done already. So your needle goes on one end point, you make sure your compass is more than halfway, and you make your arc going up and down. Now, keeping your compass width the same, notice mine is locked. We're going to move to the other endpoint of our segment that we want to bisect, and then we're going to make our arcs again. Now, we have these two intersection points up here and down here. So we take our straight edge and we connect those two intersection points. And this blue line that we have just created, that is the perpendicular bisector of our diameter, right? So the next step is we are going to do the perpendicular bisector of the other segment. So what we're going to do, needle goes on an end point, and our compass goes more than halfway. We make our arcs up and down, and then we move our needle to the other end point. And without changing the width of our compass, we make that same arc going up and down, and we connect our intersections. Now this point, so now we have this red line here. This red line is the perpendicular bisector of this segment here. Now the intersection of your two bisectors that you made, so the intersection of the big blue line and the big red line, that is your center of your circle. So it actually turned out really nice that it matched up with it perfectly. Now the other examples that we're going to do, the next one is we're going to do the construction of an equilateral triangle. So we're going to bounce around our notes a little bit. We're going to do equilateral triangle first, and then we're going to do hexagon. So the reason why we're bunching these together is because the same first steps apply. Now in these examples, your center should be marked. So if it's not marked, try to estimate where your center is at. Do that now with your pencil. But typically on your regents and on your task cards, they will be marked. But your first step is we draw a diameter. Now this diameter should be precise. If your center is there, it should be going through your center. So now what you're going to be doing for equilateral triangle and for a regular hexagon, match up your compass to the radius. Now what we're going to do is we're going to keep this compass width. This compass width should always represent our radius, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to make arc marks around. So we're going to make arc marks here. So right now, so far there are 3 intersection points. We have the intersection point of our diameter, we have this intersection point we just made, and we have this one. We're going to create 6 in total. So we're going to move our needle to our other endpoint of our diameter. And again, we're going to make our arc going up and down. So we have another intersection point here, another one at the other end of our diameter, and here. So in total, there are 6 of them. So first step, we made our diameter. Second step, we matched our compass to the radius. We made an arc intersecting our circle twice. And then we moved our needle to our other endpoint of the diameter, and we made that same exact size arc going around so that we made 6 intersection points. Now, to create an equilateral triangle, you're going to connect every other point. So what that means is, if we number our points here, we're going to connect every other point. So I like to keep it even, so I like to connect points 2, 4, and 6, but you can also connect points 1, 3, and 5. But I usually just like to go with 2, 4, and 6. So with your straight edge, you connect points 2, points 4, and point 6, and that's going to give you an equilateral triangle. Now, if you want to create a regular hexagon, a hexagon has 6 sides and 6 vertices. So if you want to create a regular hexagon, instead of connecting every other intersection point, you have to connect all of them. So with your straight edge, you would connect points 1 and 2, points 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, and then you connect 6 to 1, and you would have created a regular hexagon. So again, our steps for equilateral triangle and hexagon are the same up until the very last step where we're connecting the points. For an equilateral triangle, we connected every other vertex, and for hexagon, we got to connect all 6 of them. Now, the last one we're going to do, this one's a little bit different, is we're going to do a square, an inscribed square. So again, the first step is we draw our diameter in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just create the perpendicular bisector of this diameter. So again, we're going to just mark these 2 intersection points. These are pretty important for us. We're going to use them later on. Now to create the perpendicular bisector, again, we've done this and we refreshed it in the first example. So we put our needle on an end point. Make sure your compass is more than halfway of the width of your entire diameter. Make your arcs neatly going up and down. Move your needle to the other endpoint of the diameter. Make your arcs. And then connect your intersection points. So now we have the perpendicular bisector of our diameter, but the intersection points that matter, like this one typically used to matter for us right here. This one usually would tell us the midpoint of our segment, right? But in this case, when we're creating an inscribed shape, all of the vertices are going to be points on the circle. So we already have these 2 vertices from when we marked our diameter, right? So we already have 2. The other 2 that we care about is where our bisector is meeting our circle. So we have another point right here. We have another point right here. And those are our 4 intersection points that we're going to care about. And for a square, we got to connect all 4 of them. So let's do this in a different color so we can really see what's happening. But you connect points 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you did it neatly enough, you will have a perfect square. Now the last example that we're going to talk about, and you guys aren't going to have to copy this down, but just so you understand the general idea, is if you want to enlarge or shrink a circle, it's a very possible question they might ask you. So remember, the size of a circle depends on its radius and its diameter. So again, first step would be to figure out what your diameter actually is, right? Now, if you want to enlarge your circle, you're going to have to enlarge the size of your radius. So let's do an example like that. Let's do that in blue. And again, you guys don't have to copy this example down, but you should write down the general steps. And again, if we want to enlarge our circle, we have to enlarge the radius. So again, this is a construction we know how to do. When we enlarge a segment, we need to make a reference line so that we have a home for our new segment. And if we want to, let's say, double the size of this circle, we need to double the radius. So our original radius is right here, right? If we want to double that radius, we need to move our needle to here and make that mark again. Now the radius, the new radius, is going to go from our center, but instead of stopping here, it's going to be double. It's going to go all the way out here. So this circle, this new circle, actually isn't even going to show, but that's okay, because here we've doubled the radius, which means the circle is double the size. And if you wanted to triple the radius, you would again just have to move your needle to this mark that you made and make another enlargement, and that would be your new radius. Now, if we wanted to shrink the circle, we then need to shrink the size of our radius. So shrinking is like bisecting it, right? So let's say we wanted to create a circle that's half the size. We would then need to bisect this radius. And if we wanted to make a circle that's 1/4 of the size, you need to bisect it twice. So again, we already know how to bisect, but in this case, we're bisecting our radius. So one point is here and the other point is here. So our needle goes on one of them. We make sure our compass is more than halfway. We make our arc. We move our needle over to the other endpoint. Again, make the arc again. And we use our straight edge to connect these intersections. Now, what matters here is that where our bisector intersects our radius, that is the midpoint, right? So what that means is that if I now go from my center to this point, that is going to be half the length of our original radius. So then you make a new circle with that radius. So your needle goes on your center. Your pencil's going to go on what your new radius is, and then you just make a circle from that. So that red circle is half the size of our original one. So make sure your notes are neat. Make sure if you need to review or rewind to go back and write some steps down that you do that. And that's circle constructions.